It took us 2 years. 2 years we have been studying. So I hope you have benefited from it and you will be able to use it.
Yes,
This,
Father.
this scripture is very important for all Chinese traditions, actually. So when you become familiar with it, then you can cope with any tradition. So let us start.
In whole YouTube, we can only find Singkong Faser who discuss about this text. No
You
other.
don't. You did not put this on the YouTube?
Yes, we put it into YouTube.
Okay, so others can also. Some people became very interested. They write to me, and so as I say, after when I come back from India, when I'm in India, I will be busy. If you're interested, you can come to India and see my place. In India, we can. It is near than Czech. Czech is a little far away, but India is little better. So we can do some meditation in my place in India, and you can see also the lot of culture in that area, the Ajanta, Ellora, these Buddhist caves. You can visit. It's very near for Indian standard, not for Czech standard.
Pastor, when you discuss about this text, you like the previous week, do you think it is very close related to the Madhupindika Sutta?
Madhupindika Sutta, yes, but Madhupindika Sutta is from the point of view of the more Theravada. There is a difference between nirvana and samsara. And to attain nirvana, you have to get rid of all the prapancha, It talks about prapancha, but the nirvana is true and samsara is true. For non-dualistic approach, neither samsara nor nirvana is true. The nirvana is empty and samsara is maya. So this is how the meditation is explained here, and we are just now dealing with this. So we have explained that shamatha part has been explained, that it is not taking any object. It does not mean you should not take any object. It is impossible to start without object. But first, you have to practice the samadhi. Otherwise, it's very difficult. So the Yuan Chao Wan Hyo, he says that first practicing the shamatha, the zhi, you have to practice the 9 stages of shamatha, the chitta sthiti, as explained in Yogacara, and then it will be clear. And it is very, he is of course traditional, he's a disciple of Xianzang, he is more traditional Yogacara, and it makes sense because you cannot start by not taking any object. For a beginner, it will be confusion. And even you not only not taking any object, but also not suppressing any object. So for that, you need a samadhi. Otherwise, it's impossible. You can only do what is possible, you cannot do what is impossible. And the author definitely did not want to ask you to do what is impossible. He wants to find the skillful means for for fast realization. So it does not mean he is rejecting, like Huineng is not rejecting the dhyanas and not rejecting the traditional training in shamatha, but it is very much in the background. In Yogacara, especially as taught in Yogacara Bhumi Shastra, it is not in the background. It is very important part of training. Just like in Abhidharma Kosha, you have to train in the eight samapatis, and you have to especially train in this Wuliang, the metta, karuna, mudita, upeksha, in order to understand shamatha. And then it makes sense. Then, of course, when you have knowledge of shamatas, and you don't need to suppress the objects that come to mind, but you just meditate on this object as being tya, being illusion. So the mind is empty, kung, and the objects that arise in the mind are tya, are false, have no own nature whatsoever. It means being a tya, being false. So with this understanding, then this meditation becomes very clear, and vipassana also becomes very clear. But if you don't have samadhi, and if you're not able to understand that originally there was no any object, no any image in mind, and the image in mind came from emptiness, which is the true nature of the mind, then it's really impossible to differentiate clearly the true mind and the Jia mind. Impossible. And so in this tradition, the Chen Yen, the correct mindfulness, is the awareness of Genru, of suchness. But how can you have awareness of suchness if you don't have samadhi? This is asking for impossible. So no wonder the scholars like Taishi Tashi interpret that he is trying to explain his own experience, which is the realization of the very high bodhisattva enlightenment. It is not meant for ordinary people. So ordinary people cannot meditate on Jen Yen, on the right mindfulness being the suchness. This is only you have samadhis and you can understand the teaching of the the perfection of wisdom, pragya paramita. So even the Shariputra, I think I have mentioned that in the great sutra of perfection of wisdom teaches that this uh, teaching should not be given to those who still have the five obstacles, who still have the impure mind. That is, they were misinterpreted. And it also teaches that the essence of the perfection of wisdom is the isolation, viveka, curly of the mind. So the that's why the right mindfulness, as explained in this section of shamatha, the right mindfulness is mindfulness of suchness, Genru. Hmm? So it is the mindfulness of mind only. Because when mind is empty, we understand, and the objects are false, then of course we can understand that the Genru is the only reality. And this only reality is the object of shamatha. Then the vipassana is not separated from this only reality, because all the objects arising, they were not there, and they arise from emptiness, and immediately as they arise, when you are in samadhi, they return to emptiness. So this makes it understandable that you understand that this mind does not have its own nature, and that every moment of mind you cannot attain. That is a skillful means of the pragya paramita. Hmm? Every mind you cannot attain. Nien nien pukhata. Impossible to attain mind moment by moment. This is the skillful means of the pragya paramita. When you understand it, then shamatha and vipassana will merge into one. This is the meditation of this scripture. It advocates the shamatha vipassana yugala nada, swan shiu. You only work on shamatha to understand vipassana, and you work on vipassana to understand shamatha. So they cannot be separated, because the true meditation on shamatha is meditation, as explained in the Tieshan meeting, is meditation on the continuity of mind. The Xin Xiang Xu. And the true meditation of Vipassana in this tradition is a meditation on the Xin Xiang, on the objects of the mind, not being separated with from the continuity of the mind. So the continuity of the mind is the continuity of the one-pointedness of the mind. The Tieshan meeting explains that combination of shamatha and vipassana, Zhi Quan Xuan Xiu, means the uh, the one-pointedness of the mind, which is key for samadhi, remains uninterrupted. You contemplate the one-pointedness of the mind, which is uh, samadhi. So you contemplate samadhi, and when you contemplate samadhi, so you contemplate the objects coming from emptiness, which is the true nature of the mind, that is a genshin, and returning to emptiness without really having any true existence of their own. They only appear due to causes and conditions. They have to be the uh, the manasikara, there have to be attention, there have to be vitarka, there has to be investigation of the mind, shinsu. And the Buddha is Buddha because he has no manasikara, he has no doi, he has no vitarka, he has no shin. Therefore, he effortlessly, sahaja or dzerjan, he just reflects the uh, the state of things as they are. In this natural reflection of the state of things as they really are, then, according to Mahayana scriptures, this uh, love and compassion can fully nature. So, so when the love and compassion fully nature, then the object of your samadhi becomes not only your own mind, but the mind of all beings, which is in its nature same, the emptiness. And the objects arising in your mind as well in the mind of all beings, they are illusionary objects. They arise from emptiness and they return to emptiness. So this is the Surangama Samadhi, Len Yen San Mei, the ocean of samadhis, where you don't distinguish between yourself and others. Therefore, you can lead others and lead at the same time yourself without separating. So this is also the essence of the Zen finally. This Yi Fa Jie Hai, the ocean of one Dharma Dhatu, of one the Dharmakaya, Dharmakaya, Dharmadhatu, Dharmata is like an ocean, and this is ocean. All the thoughts of beings arise and cease, and so this here it is called I Ching San Mei, Ekacharya Samadhi. So there is only uh, one way to practice, and that is this the ocean samadhi, which contains all minds of the beings, and which contains the samadhi of suchness, in which the shamatha and vipassana became uh, connected. So the samadhi is the root for understanding what the author here explains. And unless we have samadhi, this explanation the author gives is, of course, incomprehensible. No way to get there. That's why this Yuan Zhao explanation that one should first practice the uh, nine chitta sthis, the 8 stages of samadhi, then it makes sense. Otherwise, no way. So, if one has a deep experience in samadhi and if one has accumulated the equipment of the virtue and wisdom, that is the punya sambara, fu ziliang, and the zhihui ziliang, the equipment of wisdom, then this makes sense. But we all, especially maybe most of us, myself included, we don't have such a powerful equipment of virtue and wisdom. So all kinds of maras will appear, preventing us from entering this the samadhi of liberation, the ocean of samadhi, the Surangama Samadhi, or I Ching San Mei. So the next passage is about the maras. Hmm? So it is very important to understand these maras. When we understand them, they become they can become our friends. If we don't understand them, then they will do everything possible. And we have a very wonderful explanation. They can do all kinds of things which are possible. Why? We have to contemplate and understand this is very important because the desire, which is in Buddhism explained as the root of our suffering, desire hmm, creates objects. Mind creates object, and mind is, uh, so to say, the motor of the mind is desire. Hmm? Chanda. Chanda in Buddhism can be wholesome, dharma chanda, fa yi, and can be unwholesome. Yi yi, tan yi. So we have the wholesome desire and unwholesome desire. If we have desire anyway, so we give rise to all kinds of pictures arising in the mind, all kinds of uh, objects arising in the mind. Now, the most important part of Buddhism is motivation. Nothing moves without motivation. Mind does not move without motivation. So, if our motivation is good, then this desire can create uh, all kinds of auspicious forms. If our desire is just to grasp for ourselves, then all kinds of maras will appear. And those maras will make sure that they prevent us from getting the taste of liberation. That's the job of Mara. Mara is from Sanskrit root mri, which means to die, the death. We are practicing meditation, especially the non-dualistic meditation, to experience the amrita, the deathlessness, which is nirvana, which is in this tradition, nirvana is also kind of state of mind, natural state of mind. But we don't understand natural state of mind, so we identify with desires, mostly many of us with unwholesome desires, based on, as we have explained, based on manas, based on appropriating for ourselves. That's why Buddha teaches uh, anyahi, labha, upanisa anyahi nibbana gamini in Dhammapada. There is other way to nirvana, another way for individual benefit. So this especially obvious in a non-dualistic approach. Hmm? So when we want to appropriate for ourselves, even meditation, even samadhi, even vipassana, so our merit will be very, very limited and we will find all kinds of obstacles. Because the Mara in Buddhism, we have four kinds of Mara. The death, that is the original Mara, which prevent us for tasting immortality, which is the aim of liberation. Hmm? Then we have the Pancha Upadana Kanda Mara, the skanda of the five aggregates of clinging. Hmm? Wu Qi Yin, Mo. Then we have the Fanao Mo. We have the Mara of the kleshas, of the defilements. And finally, we have the Tian Mo, the uh, the high god of the sensual realm, which he makes sure that we don't go beyond his realm. So these four maras, unless they become our friends, we will be always hindered from uh, non-dual realization, from uh, complete non-dualistic realization. But of course, Arahat is also free from Mara. It's beyond the, but he does not work hard uh, to chase Mara from the mind of others. While the Bodhisattva, he cannot separate from himself and others. This is his vow. And so he has to get involved with the defilements of others. So when you have chance to work with a really enlightened the person, so you will see he is not so much concerned with his own troubles. He is much more concerned with the troubles of others. So this is the especially emphasized in Zen practice. Forget your own kleshas, your own death, your own uh, grasping. Just reflect the grasping of others to lead them. This is very much part of the Zen tradition, and without it, we can hardly understand it. So, this gives to the Zen masters, when we become one, it gives a great freedom of the mind. So you are not attached to any rules, you are not attached to any scriptures, but you react spontaneously, not according to your own desires, but according to the desires of others. Because your own desires, you have had some realization that they are completely illusionary. So as long as the original motivation is not true, so we are bound to meet those maras, disturbing factors, to samadhi. And of course, here vipassana is also vipassana samadhi. True vipassana is also state of samadhi. Without vipassana samadhi, we will not realize directly the nirvana. So the author describes seven kinds of these maras, very wonderful. We can, we don't need to study in too much detail, but I have tried to summarize them. And to these seven kinds of maras, he mentions uh, three antidotes hmm, to each, or three skillful means, Fampien, upaya. The first one is to cultivate deeper concentration. That is why the great scholar, disciple of Xuanzang, Yuan Zhao, explains if we want to understand this meditation here, which is explained in utmost brevity, very short, we have to practice these 9 stages of shamatha and become familiar with them, so that our mind continually stays in the state of purity. As Shariputra, we have mentioned, explained, without the purity of the mind, we cannot understand the perfection of wisdom. Impossible. Perfection of wisdom is, according to the uh, scriptures of the great perfection of wisdom, it's the base. Without the perfection of wisdom, we cannot get the true samadhi, which here means the non-dualistic samadhi, the samadhi of Genru, of suchness. This here becomes I Shing San Mei. Why I Shing San Mei? Because as the Tieshan meeting explains, as the Sandhi Nirmochana Sutra explained, the connecting shamatha and vipassana in one, Shuan Shu or Yamaka Nada. Yamaka means couple, connecting in the couple, means meditating shamatha and vipassana both. Shamatha is the state when the mind does not move, the true mind does not move. And when the mind moves, when the mind does not move, so we can penetrate emptiness of mind. Because the true mind does not move. And when the mind moves, we can penetrate the unreality of the karmic mind. Karmic mind is the, as we have learned, the beginning of uh, avidya, of non-science. We have non-science because we have karmic mind. And because karmic mind has continuity, so this continuity becomes the object of the manas, of individualizing mind. And on this individualizing mind, we then experience the 6 senses. We have explained this process. So when we cultivate the deep concentration, so naturally the tendency of mind to the 5 nivaranas, to the 5 obstacles, which are in Sanskrit tradition summarized as the thinking of the mind and excitement of the mind, uh, laya and audatyam, or chang and jiaoji. These two explain the 5 obstacles due to which the mind become unstable. And when the mind becomes unstable, so what kind of uh, samadhi of suchness can you practice? It is, of course, impossible. So first cultivate the deeper samadhi, make the deeper samadhi part of your mind so that you don't need to search for it. It's immediately available to you. And keep uh, not the one-pointedness of mind in daily life, but keep this awareness of suchness in daily life. Awareness of suchness means awareness of mind only. When we aware of the mind only, The objects will not uh, seduce us. When we're not aware of mind only, as explained here, the object will seduce us because we take the objects as something separated from the mind, not as creation of the mind. Hmm? So the Jen Nien, as we have explained, in this tradition, which is also Zen tradition, uh, which is in a way Pure Land tradition. The Jen Yen means awareness of the mind only. And to be aware of mind only means to enter the uh, Manomaya Kaya, this mind created body, and be aware of this mind created body, Nien Nien. Hmm? This mind created body, when you Nien Nien aware, when you continually aware, then you become this skillful means of perfection of wisdom, as explained in Heart Sutra, become natural to you. Hmm? Whatever appears in mind, you cannot attain, you cannot appropriate, you cannot grasp. Hmm? Why? Because it is production of the mind, which is emptiness, which is suchness. And same with you and the same with others. So you break by the samadhi of suchness the power of the objects of the five senses to take hold of your mind. Then when you do that, then this outer Mara cannot uh, get hold of you. These arahats also, they are great masters of the outer Maras. That's why it is explained in many Theravada scriptures. When we become an arahat, the Mara is always flying around and around and around. And when he has no chance to enter, he becomes very disappointed and dejected and goes away. So, due to this skill in samadhi, the one can understand that holding to all nimittas, to all objects, to all uh, images, to all uh, symbols arising in the mind is making the mind impure, is polluting the mind. This is indeed a very great realization, the realization that which the disciples also have, the bodhisattvas also have, that the tanha, Krishna, the tanyi, comes from the mind and pollutes the mind. It does not come from outside. It comes from the mind and pollutes the mind. The outside is not a problem. The problem is inside, the desire, the grasping. So then, by understanding that holding the objects arising in the mind is making your mind impure, not the objects, but the fabrications of the mind are impure, then that is a great progress in meditation. And then this samadhi of suchness becomes accessible. Then, when we understand it, then the next step naturally is that this samadhi of suchness is a true samadhi, the um, bringing suchness to mind is the true sati, through recollection, through memory, and uh, that whatever the holding of the mind to outer objects is completely false, even when it is false and we understand it, this true mind stays and understands it as with its awareness that it is false. So we are opened to genuine realization. So these are the three skillful means to keep the maras away and to uh, realize that all is just way shin, chittamatrata, only mind. The objects outside being completely kya, completely irrelevant, they arise and go, and holding to them as something real existent, it's simply ignorance. So the scripture explained that these disturbing factors of samadhi, they can appear, can take different forms, sometimes even the form of the bodhisattvas, of the Buddhas, with all the signs of perfection, yet they are Mara because our motivation is not pure. As long as our motivation is not pure, all, as Diamond Sutra teaches, all forms cannot be identified with Buddha. As long as our motivation is not pure, as long as our practice is not pure, because there is no practice without motivation. So, whatever uh, appearances appear, even those uh, appearances of those great beings who can teach all kinds of dharma, who can teach even nirvana, the paramis, uh, whatever they teach, whatever they say, they can even predict the future. It says, then this, if the motivation is not pure, they are clearly just the fun now more. They are klesha mara. They are mara in forms of the kleshas, because the root of all kleshas is tanha, it's tani, desire. And these forms appear not based on the understanding of suchness, but based on our desire, especially the desire to be different from others. So they appear, these forms, due to past vasanas, past habits, but motivated by wrong behavior, by grasping. Hmm? I myself have experienced when I was a monk. I used to teach regularly in Malaysia. In Malaysia, the people are very religious as opposed to communist China, where it is not very common. They are more in countryside, but not you don't see much in the cities. But people are still very religious in the cities, in Kuala Lumpur, in Bincheng. They go to temples, they pray, but they have all kinds of misunderstandings based on this wrong view. So they believe that the uh, the outer shapes, that like the uh, light a candle in front of the Avalokiteshvara, and then the wax is flowing down on the candle, and they uh, come very excited that Avalokiteshvara is blessing them because uh, this wax is making the similar shape like Avalokiteshvara, but this is of course nonsense. And they uh, pray to Amitabha, 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 may my son pass the exam so that he gets the job and so on. So this, of course, it may not be, it may bring some peace to them, but it is not connected with any right motivation. So it will be always connected with this Panao Mo, based on Tani, Tani Mo. So the Mara will come to them in the even in the form of the Buddha when they are grasping and wishing something just for oneself. So even if one practices according to Buddhism, and even if one has some understanding of Buddhism, this being seduced by one's own desires will create definitely some kind of maras, disturbing. So, how to handle this? The text suggests only by understanding that the motivation is wrong. When the motivation is wrong, then the result will be also wrong. And even so, the son can get some promotion or whatsoever, they will not get happiness. They will not taste true happiness because they don't understand that this is only their own private creation. They will only get happiness when they understand that this whatever the mind fabricates, separated from the one reality, mm, is uh, cannot bring the freedom from Mara. Impossible. So one, the object, as the Pajang and so on commentaries explain, the object has to be understand that uh, as long as one holds to tertium, to some form, objects, appearance to be grasped, to be appropriated, then there is no question of understanding the real samadhi, the samadhi of suchness. And when one practice in this way, so one will have some success, but one will always be confronted with kausidyam, with negligence, negligence of the true dharma. And one has negligence of true dharma, then all kinds of obstacles will appear, no doubt, because there is no Janyan, there is no Samasati, not Samasati based on correct differentiation, Samasati of body, sensations, uh, mind, differentiating mind and objects, not to speak of the right differentiation of suchness, which is without any object to grasp. So, uh, the text explained that all the samadhis of non-Buddhists who don't understand the dependent origination cannot bring the true samadhi, which is here samadhi of suchness, because uh, as long as one is holding to objects, so there cannot be talk of any samadhi of suchness or penetrating of suchness or understanding of suchness. And without understanding the samadhi of suchness, then one cannot become a true bodhisattva. One cannot become part of the Buddha family. Hmm? So the samadhis of non-Buddhists, because they cannot understand nirvana, at least the Buddhists believe so, uh, they uh, they can only, their samadhi can only be worldly samadhi, not the suchness samadhi. And worldly samadhi will always be confronted with obstacles, while the obstacles in the samadhi of suchness is a complete illusion, and one learns from illusion. The illusion is the greatest teacher. When one penetrates one illusion, then the illusion becomes wisdom. This is a teaching uh, particular to the uh, non-dualistic tradition, especially emphasized in non-dualistic tradition. So when we have access or understanding of samadhi, of wisdom, then of course this wrong view and the desire cannot overwhelm us. And they belong, as we have learned before, to the gross states of consciousness. That means they belong to the consciousness based on, in Yogacara tradition, on the six senses, holding to the objects of six senses as being objects of grasping, of holding. So with this kind of attitude, one cannot attain the samadhi of suchness, and one cannot attain also this uh, Hodaja, the uh, wisdom coming after realization. That means wisdom reflecting the true needs of all sentient beings. That's why the Bodhisattva also learns medicine, the logic, languages, the arts, and the crafts and so on, in order not only to be helpful to oneself, but to understand also how to improve the uh, the life of others. So the end of this part before coming to Vipassana are the 10 advantages which uh, one gains by practicing the samadhi of suchness and thus avoiding all the maras, by practicing these three skillful means that we have mentioned. So he will be under the protection of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, because the true Buddhas and true Bodhisattvas, they are Buddhas and Bodhisattvas because they are have penetrated the suchness, the Dharmakaya. So he will not be afraid of Mara and all the evil spirits. Of course, these evil spirits, if one has a samadhi of suchness, they can become the Dharma protectors. Fahu. He will not be confused by any non-Buddhist doctrine or teachings or by evil spirits whatsoever. They cannot influence him because he has found the certainty and truth in suchness. So he does not need to look outside. So he, because he understands suchness, he can never blame the true Dharma, find faults in true Dharma, and so uh, his karmic obstacles and his uh, behavior will purify because he will not do any ethical transgressions. So he will get rid of all the doubts and of incorrect meditation based on attaining something for oneself. And then his faith in the uh, Tathagata's enlightenment sphere. That means in his three bodies, the Dharmakaya body, the Sambhogakaya body, and the Nirmanakaya body will be uh, will be will ripen. So he will not be frightened by any objects, whatever they may be, because he is connected with the true knowledge of emptiness and true knowledge of objects arising from emptiness, not having any nature of their own, but being the fabrications of the mind. His mind will become subtle and harmonious, and he will be free from man, from the pride, and he will not have any uh, hate or anger in regard to others. Hmm? Very important. So he will be very full of courage. Then, if he has not attained the deep Sanmay Samadhi of suchness, so he will not allow these defilements to remain, and he will not find any joy in the worldly things. Mm. So he will have very few kleshas, very few defilements of the mind, because his mind will be become more subtle, connected with prashrabdhi, with king an, with pliancy, and with upeksha, with equanimity. And he will not grasp for worldly objects because for him the true joy comes from the mind, not from the worldly objects. But of course, he will also not reject worldly objects. He will, like the Moggallana says, like a bee takes nectar from the flowers, so he will enjoy the objects of the world without uh, harming, like the bee take honey, take honey from the flowers without harming the flowers. The true practitioner will enjoy the beautiful objects of the world without harming them. And the tenth one is very interesting. When he attains this samadhi of suchness, so no sound, actually, what he means, I believe, sound is the most obvious, but no objects, no outer objects will move his mind. So whenever such a meditator who has knowledge of the samadhi of suchness, when he uh, gets hold of any object, any image, if he is very advanced, even in a dream, he will understand immediately as soon as he grasps for that object, he will understand that he has a mushita smriti, his mindfulness has been stolen, literally, hmm? And that he has lost his viveka kali from the objects of the senses. So he knows immediately that this is the cause of the samsaric state, which is identification with the rising and passing of the mind. And one who identifies with this grasping as at the samsaric mind, which arises and passes away, has uh, pramada, as negligence. And so he is, as Dhammapada explains, he's separated from the immortality. When one has negligence and grasp at the objects, then one is, says Dhammapada, he is uh, separated from mortality, from immortality. Pamado, mechuno padam, apamado, amatam padam, ye pamata, ye apamata, namiyanti, ye pamata, yata mata. Says the Dhammapada. The way to immortality is non-negligence. The way to death is negligence. One who practices negligence is like a dead person. One who practices non-negligence, Jen, he never dies. What means never dies? He has penetrated this samsaric mind being illusionary. And what is illusionary? He can detach from it. And when he detaches from it, he can, it will not affect him. So it will not create grasping for existence. So uh, then the text explains, we will finish here. the text explains when one practices the shamatha meditation only, then his mind will be subjected to chenmo, to falling, to laya, to what it's called in English, to the tendency of falling to the laziness, to caucidium, to uh, his mind will have no power, it will become weak, and he will have this caucidium, he will have uh, the negligence, the laziness, and he will not have enthusiasm to practice the good dharmas like wisdom, meditation, giving, the discipline, the forbearance, the effort to not to let the evil dharmas stay and to cultivate all the good dharmas. So he will not find pleasure in cultivating the kushala mulas, cultivating the good, and he will be, if he is a bodhisattva, the greatest mistake is to be separated from great compassion. When one is separated from the great compassion, one is separated from the vows not to liberate oneself, but to liberate all beings, not to get rid of one's own defilements, but to get rid of defilements of all beings, and to learn all the dharmas for the purpose and to attain the non-dualistic realization with all beings. One will be separated from it. So the only way to avoid these mistakes, the only way to not to be dominated by the objects at the time of being weak, negligent, and so on, and to follow again the tendency to grasp the images of the mind, the objects arising in the mind. So he has to practice the Vipassana. So it means the Pragya Paramita Sutra, the sutras of the perfection of wisdom, says that the Bosa, the Bodhisattva, who is in the Anutolo Samyak Sambodhi, the Fajen. If we separate our mind from the mind of others, and if we don't see the minds of others with the same understanding as our own mind, then we will never attain the Fajen, the tolerance of the true state of Dharma. That means the tolerance of Anutpatti, Dharma Kshanti, the tolerance of non-arising, non-real arising of all the phenomena. And he will not understand the non-dualistic principle that body means the Tao, means the path, and pas mean the body. And the pas here means this understanding and penetrating the samadhi of suchness, which does not separate between oneself and the others. So when one only practices shamatha, then his mind, when he is not in samadhi, it has tendency to negligence. Then he will again follow the old habits of grasping the images and the objects, and so he cannot succeed in a true Tao, in the true path, not to speak of the realization of the Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, of the perfect, unsurpassed realization. So let us finish here. We have finished before the meditation on Vipassana, and that will be the topic of our next lesson next Saturday. What date is it? I think 6th of June, right?
Wait,
6th of June. 6th of June. So see everybody on the 6th of June.
7 first. It's 7.
7th. 7th of June, next Saturday. Again at 2:30 for our European friends, and 7:30 for the Indonesian friends, and 8:30 for the Chinese friends, right? 1 hour later. So that much for today. Let us dedicate Mary for the benefit of all sentient beings and we can yeah, the second forty for time to plan Jekyll for may the merits of the Dharma spread to all beings so that we attain the state of perception business. Okay, wish you
Obrigada.
nice